Private, anonymous, secure. You probably think your activity is completely private. You send a transaction from your crypto wallet, and it feels, well, hidden, right? Just a drop in the vast digital ether. But then, because here is the reality. On the blockchain, absolutely everything is visible. What starts off looking like a random string of letters and numbers actually becomes a highly traceable identity. Lines connect, addresses link up, patterns start to emerge. Every single transaction, every interaction, is permanently recorded. And sure, tools exist to hide you, but as you'll see, massive, highly sophisticated systems exist to find you. Now, before we get too deep into this explainer, I need to share a quick disclaimer. This explainer on the channel, Block Spawns Funds, is created for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or investment advice. Okay, let's jump straight into part 1, the privacy paradox. Blockchain was built from the ground up on radical transparency, right? That's how it ensures trust without needing a bank or a central authority in the middle. It is a globally visible, totally immutable ledger. So we really have to ask ourselves, what does privacy actually mean in a system like that? Is it true anonymity or is it just obscurity? If literally anyone can download and audit every single block, how can anyone seriously claim that crypto is private? Which brings us to part 2. Pseudonymity is not anonymity. There is a huge misconception out there that blockchains are completely anonymous. They just aren't. They are pseudonymous. Take a look at the physical architecture of the Bitcoin network. You've got these nodes maintaining a distributed ledger. Now, for the network to actually work, to stop people from double spending their coins and to keep the whole thing secure, every single node has to see the entire history of the coins being spent. That means all transaction histories are completely public, by design. Your wallet address is just hanging out there for the whole world to see, permanently glued to every single financial move you make. So, understanding this distinction is absolutely crucial. Pseudonymity means you're operating under a consistent public identifier. Think of it like a pen name. Anonymity, on the other hand, means you are completely unidentifiable and untraceable. If you publish 10 books under a pen name and someone finally figures out who that pen name belongs to, well, suddenly they know you wrote all 10 books. The exact same vulnerability applies to your crypto wallet. All right, section 3, the real-world identity link. Listen, you can transact under a fake name all you want, but eventually you're going to want to interact with the real world. You want to buy some crypto with your actual bank account, or maybe cash out to go buy a house. And that right there is the major friction point. Just look at the sheer amount of data collected at these intersections. When you use a centralized exchange, what we call a fiat on-ramp or off-ramp, you get hit with KYC, or Know Your Customer rules. You're handing over your government ID, doing facial recognition scans, proving where you live, and giving up your IP address. Regulatory compliance literally forces these exchanges to keep detailed records of exactly who is moving that money. So think about the implications here. What actually happens when your supposedly private address interacts with a highly regulated exchange? The exact second you send Bitcoin from your private wallet to a KYC-compliant exchange to cash out, that exchange, and by extension law enforcement and tax authorities, can instantly link your real-world identity to that specific wallet address. And since the blockchain is permanent, that one single interaction retroactively exposes your entire past blockchain history, plus any future transactions you make from that wallet. Just like that, the pseudonym is broken forever. Moving on to part 4, the tracing arms race. This dynamic has kicked off a totally wild, high-stakes battle. On one side, you have developers building complex privacy tools. On the other side, surveillance firms are building massive dashboards to trace every digital footprint you leave. Let's break down how the surveillance side actually works. Analytics firms basically use a 3-step system to de-anonymize networks. First up is address collection. They literally scrape the blockchain for all the raw data. Second is heuristic clustering. This is where they use algorithms to analyze patterns, like figuring out when multiple addresses are probably controlled by the exact same person because the funds are spent together. And third, entity attribution. They match those clustered addresses to known entities using off-chain data from exchanges, darknet markets, or even known hacks. Before you know it, an entire graph of your financial life is completely mapped out. It is a constant tug of war. For every tool built to hide you, a finding tool is built to crack it. People use mixers like Tornado Cash to scramble their funds, but then firms use tools like Chainalysis Reactor to demix and trace those exact funds. Users try implementing stealth addresses, investigators counter with Elliptic for cross-chain tracing. People flock to privacy coins like Monero, surveillance machines like TRM Labs roll out AI heuristics to hunt for behavioral patterns and IP leaks. Now, let's take a quick look at how these hiding tools actually function. Techniques like CoinJoin basically batch a bunch of users' transactions together, which makes it incredibly hard to see who sent what to whom. Then you have ring signatures, which Monero uses heavily, that hide the sender by mixing their signature with a bunch of others. Stealth addresses generate a unique one-time address just for the receiver, keeping their main wallet totally off the public radar. And RingCT actually hides the dollar amount being transferred. These are seriously complex cryptographic techniques, all designed with one goal: to sever that link between sender and receiver. But honestly, despite all those tools, the sheer scale of the surveillance machine is staggering. We're talking about analytics firms processing tens of billions of data points across dozens of different blockchains at the exact same time. They're tracking cross-chain bridges, monitoring liquidity pools, using AI to flag suspicious patterns in real time. The crazy thing is, privacy loss on the blockchain rarely comes from the cryptography failing. It almost always comes from user error, like reusing an address or accidentally leaking off-chain metadata. Finally, Section 5. Zero-knowledge solutions. So, what does this all mean? Are we just doomed to choose between total financial surveillance on one hand or operating completely outside the regulated system on the other? Well, not necessarily. Enter zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs. A ZKP is basically a mathematical protocol. It allows one party, the prover, to convince another party, the verifier, that a specific statement is true without revealing any of the underlying data. Think of it like this. Imagine being able to prove to a bouncer at a club that you are over 21, but you don't have to show them your name, your home address, or even your actual birth date. You just hand them a mathematical guarantee that you meet the age requirement. Compare that to how we do things right now. Standard verification basically forces you to hand over your passport, a utility bill, your whole transaction history, all to some centralized entity that stores it on a server. And as history shows us time and time again, those servers are incredibly vulnerable to getting hacked. ZKP verification, though, it allows you to prove you aren't on a sanctions list or that you passed KYC by generating a mathematical proof right on your own device. The verifier accepts the proof, but they literally never see your actual data. So the key concept here is what we call selective disclosure. This is a real game changer because it shifts the privacy model from being an all or nothing game to something that is entirely context dependent. You can publicly disclose the exact pieces of information needed for compliance, like proving you hold a valid KYC token, while keeping your specific identity, your net worth, and your transaction history completely locked away from the public and bad actors. Transparency enables trust, sure, but privacy requires concealment. With ZKPs, the system is finally trying to let both of those things coexist. We've covered a lot today. We've explored the illusion of anonymity, the unavoidable friction of that real-world link, the massive tracing arms race, and the really elegant promise of zero-knowledge cryptography. Just remember, blockchain doesn't guarantee your privacy. It just makes it probabilistic. Privacy is an emergent property of the wallets, the networks, and most importantly, your own behavior. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The real question isn't whether the blockchain is private. It's what level of privacy you operate within and who actually has the tools to see through it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.